It's the Kirby on Sports podcast. It's episode 208. We are a man short, but we are still looking forward to talking about some great NFL football matchups across the league, including our respective teams. As always, that all comes your way next on the Kirby on Sports podcast. Once again, we welcome you to the Kirby on Sports podcast, episode 208. A huge thanks to all of our sponsors, PM Plus Reserves, Shenandoah Primitives, Transformative Alignment Group, Barrett, Pest, and Termite Services, Mark Lynch with Gill Mortgage, Shenandoah Music, and Don't Sleep Energy, the official energy drink sponsor of the Kirby on Sports podcast. Use promo code KOS podcast for 12% off your order every single time. It was a very exciting week in the NFL, and here to join me for that is the Swiss Army knife, Carlos Martinez. And unfortunately, we are without Dan, wishing him all the best as he is battling an illness right now.
We miss you, buddy. Don't die on me. You're my only challenge.
Carlos, how are you, buddy?
Oh, another day, another dollar.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
Or I guess in my case, another 50 cents. But, it is what it is. Pour out in these streets right now.
Some exciting football week 4. I know the games on Monday night, none of our teams played, but one exciting matchup. Rather.
Yeah, I was about to say there was only one exciting matchup.
Yeah, I backtracked because I was like, yeah, that Titans-Dolphins game. It seems like the Monday nights, the past 2 Monday nights, one of the games are a dud. So that
I don't understand why we're doing doubleheader. Like, I think in 2 weeks they're doing it again, like a doubleheader on Monday. I don't know why we're doing doubleheaders on Monday.
Yeah, it doesn't really make any sense to me, to be honest. But I think it's just more way to get more people driven on ESPN and ABC since they have access to both. That's just in my opinion. But the second game, the Lions and the Seahawks, that was a thriller. But regardless, a very exciting.
It was a thriller, and then at the end, it was like, oh, it was never in doubt.
Yeah, that is true. But
Jared Goff, perfect game though.
That was incredible to see too. And Dan Campbell.
Well, he did have an incompletion. It's just then it got called back. So he got lucky there.
But Dan Campbell, he was upset. He didn't give the game ball to him. He didn't know he was perfect till after somebody mentioned it. I thought that was pretty funny too.
Typical Dan Campbell.
But let's move on. I will ask first and foremost, I know you don't really want to talk about it, but the Cowboys 20-15 over division rival. The Giants, they get the job done, but some concern with only a 5-point win.
Yeah, a lot of concern. Just because, again, this was a team last year. Dallas blew them out in every game, and this year they struggled a lot. The Giants are not a good team, and Malik Neighbors was just ripping the secondary apart unless he was up, unless Diggs was on him. And even Diggs was struggling with him a little bit. But, yeah, a lot of concern, and then obviously it looks like DeMarcus Lawrence is going to be out for a while. It looks like we're going to be without Micah for a little bit. So some concern for sure, especially with the slate that's coming up. You got the Steelers, you got the Lions, you got you got a bye week, and then you got the 49ers. It's not an easy stretch for Dallas. And honestly, going through my simulation, I do a simulation of the season after every week to see how I feel about each team. I'm really struggling to get Dallas to 10 wins. So, and it looks like it's going to be a dogfight to get into the playoffs, especially with how your team has started the season and has really made things very interesting. And also with how bad the Eagles have looked as of late. It looks like a continuation of the collapse that they had last year. Dallas is going to be in a dogfight because they don't necessarily have the horses to do what they have done the last 3 seasons, pulling off 12 wins. They don't have that kind of power at all. I mean, their running game is abysmal and the offensive line is very leaky. The defense gets no pressures or sacks. Micah is not living up to the hype that he has established for himself, and now he's hurt. It's going to be interesting to see how the Cowboys handle this.
Yeah, it's very interesting just looking back on the whole NFC East in terms of the competition. Some teams that on paper look really good are not doing that well, and vice versa, in a sense.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I think what you mean in that case is the Eagles, who they look very like on paper, they have all the talent. You got Saquon. Obviously, we know their 2 top receivers are hurt. And then you look at Washington, and Washington was expected to do better than they had last year, but not necessarily compete the way that they have. They're really the shock of the season so far, and being at where they are right now, because you guys are sitting at what, 3-1, correct?
3-1.
3-1. I mean, you guys can literally play 500 football from here on out and finish with 11 wins. Like you guys don't even have to really try down the stretch that much. But like I said, I feel as if this is going to be a dogfight to the end between these 3 teams. I don't think the Giants are not in this fight at all. And I think Washington has the advantage because they have the easier schedule coming up. I mean, Dallas, like I said, they have Pittsburgh, they have Detroit, they have San Francisco. We still have 2 games against the Eagles. We still have 2 games against you. And then also we still have the Bengals on, the Bengals to go through as well. And the Bengals aren't necessarily the dominant team that they used to be, but it's later on in the season. So we'll see where they land at that point. So it'll be hard for Dallas to really make that push at the end. But this is what happens when you have a pretty much incompetent owner who's the game has passed him by. And, he just doesn't know how to build a team anymore. And this team just does not have it. It doesn't have it the way the last 3 years of Dallas Cowboys have had, like that excitement factor where you're like, okay, like I can kind of believe in this. This was terribly boring. It was uneventful. Nobody really stood out. CD finally came alive. Luckily, he had a very good bounce back game and an incredible touchdown. But aside from that, there's really nothing else to say about this team. I mean, it's just kind of mid. That's what they are. I don't think that any Cowboys fan that's trying to make the case that, that even at the beginning of the year, like I said, that's trying to say this is our year, they're delusional. They're not a serious person. This Dallas Cowboys team is not built for a Super Bowl run, and Jerry Jones is not a serious owner. And that's why the Cowboys have really lost my interest this season, because I'm sick and tired of investing the most valuable thing that I have, which is my time, into a team that, does not value that time and keeps trying to waste it and trying to sell us as if we are going to actually do it, and then we don't do it.
Very good point. I understand where you're coming from, but the Cowboys over the Giants 20-15. Let's hop straight in the NFC East. Talk about the Washington Commanders 42-14 over the Arizona Cardinals, and the Commanders did punt. Jane Daniels did have an interception, so he is not perfect, but still a pretty complementary football game, and the defense stepped up, played a little bit better. But at the same time, the Cardinals, with the weapons they had, I had Marvin Harrison catching at least one touchdown pass, which he did. Marvin Harrison Jr., that is. But for the most part, it seems like the Cardinals are trying to work out some things in my mind.
Yeah, I don't know. It's typical Cardinals, honestly. Like, what else is new? They just can't seem to get it together. Like, I mean, I feel like, especially with this being Cliff Kingsbury's return game, after being fired, and then for him to do what he did with, your offense.
Huge statement.
Yeah, I mean, that's why he got the game ball from Dan Quinn. Look, I mean, you guys are playing well right now, but can you guys keep it going? I mean, you don't want to be playing your best ball right now. You want to be playing that later in the season. And again, luckily Washington has a relatively easy schedule. It's a third place schedule. You guys are playing a lot of, easy teams. So I definitely can see you guys, especially after going 3-1 in the first 4 games, your chances of making the playoffs are looking pretty good. I feel like there's definitely a stretch there of games that you guys are going to struggle in, but I feel like overall there's enough push at the end where Washington may make the playoffs this year. They just might.
So just looking at the game itself, and your points there are good. There's a chance, but still, I still need to see some more improvement. Obviously, the defense not tackling the best. Yeah, I mean, James Conner was running around. I mean, what did James Conner have in that game? He had 104 rushing yards and a touchdown. So he had a pretty productive day. The Cardinals were moving the ball down, but fourth down stop, the Cardinals went for it on fourth down, I believe, later in the game. Defense came up huge with the sack. So they were applying pressure to Kyler Murray in some instances, but Kyler Murray also knowing when to get the ball out, flushed out of the pocket, et cetera, he looked pretty good. So I'm not taking anything away from that, but a 1-3 start for the Cardinals. And it seemed like the Cardinals were rather frustrated with what the Commanders were doing. But just looking, obviously, Jaden Daniels only throwing one touchdown, one interception. But the one interception, it wasn't
he ran a touchdown in though, right?
Yes, he did that too.
So 2 total touchdowns.
Correct. Yes, 2 total touchdowns, my fault. But the interception he threw to Terry was a little bit high. He was there, but then the Cardinals defender just read it.
I mean, let's not harp too much on it. He's a rookie. I mean, again, the best quarterback in the league right now is throwing an interception in every game so far. Patrick Mahomes is throwing a pick. Like, he's thrown a pick in all 4 games so far. Yeah. So let's not beat on him too much. He's still learning. There's a lot he is still trying to process how to read an NFL defense, how to look a guy off and all that stuff, how to throw a more accurate pass. Give the boy some time.
But with that, he throws an interception, but he flushes that immediately out.
Uh-oh. His microphone went mute. Whoops. While Kirby figures that out, I would just continue saying that, I just think there's a lot that Jaden Daniels kind of, provides. And you good?
I should be, if you can hear me.
Yeah. I can hear you now.
Yeah, technical difficulties on this side. But as I was saying, that where was I going? He flushed that immediately out. He throws 26 for 30, 233 yards. The throws he's making are very good. Not deep throws, the short mid-range throws, finding a lot of receivers open rather, which I really like. Not always taking the deep ball, but I think he's learning the system well. I think Cliff Kingsbury and the offense are starting to piece things together with everybody involved. What I was worried about going into this game was the Austin Eckler injury because he put up a show in Cincinnati. Looking at this game, McNichols filled in the role just fine. I was like, you've got to be kidding me. But looking at the ticky-tack, unsportsmanlike conduct call on him after that touchdown, did you see that?
No.
He shot a bow and arrow, and he gets flagged for it. Yeah.
Travis Kelce does that every time he comes out of the, comes out of the tunnel. It's like him and Taylor's move because Taylor does it during her set of the Eras tour.
I don't know,
So,
but
I don't know why are we getting an unsportsmanlike conduct for that? And that's literally like in the college football game, that's literally a celebration you can do is the arrow. Like the whole like gun motion thing, like, yeah, I guess I can understand that, but like the bow and arrow, like what is that doing?
Yeah. And then backs the kicker up, makes a long extra point. That doesn't matter. I will say towards the end of the game, I think the Commanders to sort of like put the dagger in going for a 2-point conversion to sort of sink the ship for the Cardinals. Jaden Daniels read the throw precisely. I'm not sure if you saw that play to Zach Ertz, but he threw it. There was coverage, but he threw it where he was running to. Perfect right in the back of the end zone. And it was a great play. So overall, offensively, Brian Robinson looked good. Jeremy McNichols, 2 touchdowns. Brian Robinson had 1. Olamide Zaccheaus stood out to me. Noah Brown's making some catches, but again, you said he might fall off the face of the earth here in the next couple.
He always starts he always starts the season hot and then just disappears like halfway through. That's always been his MO.
Yeah. But Olamide Zaccheaus had 6 receptions. Terry had 7 receptions. I'm glad he's getting more targets in there as well. And Frankie Louvu, he forced a strip sack towards the end of the game to sort of seal the deal as well. He recovered it. So that was really good to see as well. Defensively still, I'm just going to go back on this for a moment. The Cardinals were driving, but the defense managed, but still wrapping up defenders the first time. They're sort of having trouble doing that. First drive of the game, I believe the Cardinals just go for it on 4th down. And it was excellently covered. And Marvin Harrison Jr. just reaches up and grabs it for a touchdown. So I'm pleased. There's still work that needs to be done. And I think this goes for pretty much any team in the NFL. So with that, the stretch coming up for the Commanders, I believe in the whole month of October, they stay in the state of Maryland. Some home games, plus they travel to Baltimore.
And that's going to be a big matchup because Baltimore's bouncing back really well right now. And I think at that point, Washington's still going to only have 1 loss.
With that, and I heard too, CBS is smart for protecting that game because they were trying to get it flexed to Sunday Night Football.
It's too early for flexing.
Yeah, flexing starts week 6.
It's too early for flexing starts much later than that, if I remember correctly. But they might have changed it with the new TV deals. I think might have been a thing. I don't know. But
the Sunday night matchup on that week, the Bengals and the Giants. Oh my!
Well, I guess we all know we're not watching Sunday Night Football that week. Yeah, I mean, obviously that was a game that we were definitely looking at going to for our yearly 3-man booth trip. But unfortunately, the cards did not fall the way we would want it. But it'll be exciting to see you and Dan go up against each other.
Yeah, but the Commanders and Cardinals...
Oh wow, is this the first? This might be the first time this has happened.
What?
Where there's been a matchup between all three members of the 3-man booth. Because there was obviously the Ravens and the Chiefs and the Cowboys and the Ravens. Then you're gonna have Commanders Ravens, and then obviously we're gonna have Cowboys Commanders. The only team that's not going to face off is the Chiefs and Commanders this season. But this might be the first time this has ever happened.
Yeah. So it's going to be very interesting. I'm looking forward to that matchup. But the Commanders over the Cardinals, 42-14, as we continue on with the Kirby on Sports podcast. So glad that you are with us. We're going to take a short break. We will honor our co-host, Dan Dembski, who cannot be here tonight, by talking about a very huge statement win as the Ravens defeat the Bills. We'll be right back. For sports fans living in condominium and homeowners associations, as well as business professionals, when you need a reserve study, PM Plus Reserves has been in business since 1990. Their studies are accurate and easy to understand. Check them out when your association needs a study. www.pmplusreserves.com. You can also contact them at 703-803-8436. Once again, www.pmplusreserves.com.
Bedbugs. The only thing creepier than thinking about them is actually having them. Trust me, you don't want to have them. Locally owned and operated Barrett Pest and Termite Services can keep you from having bedbug nightmares and infestations. Call 540-340-3922 to schedule your free inspection and consultation. If bedbugs are already in your home, we'll get rid of them so you can rest easy. We also specialize in keeping homes and businesses free of other pests, including rodents and termites. That's Barrett Pest and Termite Services, 540-340-3922.
Back in action, the Kirby on Sports podcast. So glad you're with us. I'm Josh Kirby, alongside the Swiss Army knife, Carlos Martinez. I did forget the Chiefs played at 4 o'clock too. So let's start with them. Then we'll talk about the Ravens after a short break after. But 17-10, Chiefs over the Chargers. The Chiefs win. It seemed like the Chargers caused some issues, but in the end, 17-10, and the Chiefs are victorious.
Yeah, I mean, they definitely caused some issues in the beginning, but that was more so us kind of shooting ourselves in the foot. And then obviously after the first quarter, the Chiefs just completely shut down that Chargers offense, and they really didn't do much after. Yes, it was a win, but it's a win at what cost? Because we obviously have lost Rashee Rice. We still don't necessarily know the extent of the injury, which is kind of good news, because if it was a torn ACL, they would have already figured it out by now. We would have already heard. So whether that might be good news, that they still don't necessarily know how bad it is, and that could mean he might possibly be coming back. It might not be as severe as they initially thought, and as I thought, because to me that looked like a clear torn ACL. Obviously that was a bad throw by Patrick Mahomes, completely overshot Travis Kelce for the interception, and then of course he tries to go make the tackle to make up for that interception, goes down, and takes out Rashee Rice's knee in the process, and that's a devastating loss. But luckily, Travis Kelce stepped back up, came back into the spotlight. I think this was definitely a show that Kareem Hunt is the best running back on this roster, and he was on the couch 2 weeks ago. That's insane. And obviously, we all know how that relationship ended originally. His original exit with Kansas City. It was very problematic and all that stuff. But he really, I don't see how he was still out there on the market. And I mean, I guess people kind of were thinking he was washed, but he was dealing with a hernia injury that he never really felt like he recovered fully from last year. And coming back and coming here, he's been saying, he's like, I still have it. Like you guys are going to see, like, I can still be that, 2018 Kareem Hunt. And he's only 28 years old. Like, he's still young. Look at what Derrick Henry's doing at 30, So Kareem still has it, but Chris Jones is an animal. McDuffie,
Absolutely.
the stat line that still always surprises me when I hear it is the fact that Trey McDuffie is one of if not the best corner in the league, and he has no career interceptions. Like, that's crazy to think that you can be a shutdown corner and not have no picks. And it's mostly because people just don't really throw at you, and then when they do throw at you, you just know how to shut it down. Yeah, I think a lot of Chiefs fans were kind of frustrated because it's like, why is every game so hard? But I think we've established, I think this is just going to go the same way as it did last season. The Chiefs offense just isn't there yet. They're still trying to work out the kinks. And of course, we lost our big signing, our big weapons. You know, we lost Hollywood Brown before the season even started. Now we've lost Rashid Rice. Isaiah Pacheco is going to be out for a few weeks. We haven't had Clyde Edwards-Helaire, yet, because he's been on IR for a non-injury, but for PTSD. It'll be interesting to see if the Chiefs are going to make any moves. There's talks about different receivers today. I've been seeing a lot of, Devontae Adams talk, and I'm like, I don't know if the Raiders would trade with us. I've been seeing maybe Tyreek, they bring him back out of Miami. I don't know if the Chiefs would be willing to give up what they would need to give up to get Tyreek back. I've seen Amari Cooper talks, which would be a solid pickup. Amari Cooper's a solid receiver, and with Patrick Mahomes, they would make magic, I feel like. The Chiefs do need to make a move. And because we saw what this wide receiving room could do last season. And granted, that's not, we have Xavier Worthy this season, who we saw.
And he looks really good too.
He can blow the top off the defense, but he's still a raw talent, and he doesn't know the route tree as well as other receivers do. So really, Andy Reid's offense is very complex. So it's it's going to take Worthy some time to get to a place that you'd feel comfortable with him being, a number. I mean, again, he was supposed to be the number 3 guy. He's not, and then he got moved up to number 2. And now he's basically the number 1 guy. And it's like, we have Juju Smith-Schuster, sure, but those old knees are barely holding up. He's not able to do what he could do a couple seasons ago when we won the Super Bowl. This offense is going to run through Travis and Kareem and Patrick Mahomes. And obviously, Clyde Edwards-Helaire is going to come back, and then Isaiah Pacheco is going to come back, and hopefully we get Hollywood Brown towards the end of the season, if not the playoffs. Hopefully he's able to heal up and we can bring him back. But listen, we saw what happened with the Chiefs last year. They did not have a good season, and their offense struggled mightily, but they were able to win enough games to get into the playoffs. And once they get into the playoffs, they just kick it into another gear, and it just clicks. This is what happens in a dynasty. They're bored of the regular season. They just want to get to the games that actually mean something. And they want to get to the playoffs. And I guarantee you, during the playoffs, this team will come alive again. We just have to hold on, and the Chiefs just have to win just enough to get to, to get to it. And we're 4-0. Like, we were not 4-0 last year at this point. We're 4-0. The offense is getting enough done, and we know we can rely on the defense to step up in the biggest moments.
I feel like with the 4-0 record, there's not a lot of panic, but at the same time there is, because the injuries, figuring out weapons you might need, want to trade for, etc. If that's an option they are evaluating. But the 4-0 record really helps, in my mind, that the wins are ugly. I would say some of them have been ugly, if you agree with me there, Corley.
All of them have been ugly, honestly.
Yeah, but they're 4-0, and it's good to have this issue when you're 4-0 instead of 0-4. If you get what I mean. So
I agree.
I feel like there is some panic, but at the same time, not a lot.
I don't think the Chiefs panic. They don't panic. Again, after what happened last season. Last year was a down year. You were there. You were there when we won the Super Bowl. You heard what I said when I was celebrating.
You were hype.
Even in our down year, baby, we're still Super Bowl champs. This team knows how to win rough. And that's how come they have been so calm in these games, because they've been here before. They were in the most intense situation in the Super Bowl. Overtime, 4th down. Patrick Mahomes runs for the first down on the final drive. They go down, they score, and they win the Super Bowl. They have been in the toughest positions and have prevailed. They have prospered. So anybody starting to doubt the Chiefs, why doubt them? They will figure it out. Patrick Mahomes will get it figured out at some point. We're only in week 4. We're only 1/4 of the season through.
Something
1/3.
like that. Yeah.
Yeah, we're 1/3 of the season through at this point. What are we freaking out about? We're not supposed to be playing our best football right now. Now, if we are in December and this offense still just isn't clicking, you still don't freak out, but you start to get concerned, because that was how it was like last year. The offense didn't click until the playoffs, and then we went on that magical run and we got the chip. This is a marathon, not a sprint. That's why you saw how people were hyping up the Saints originally. Look where the Saints are now. They've lost 2 in a row. Everybody was like, oh man, these guys are Super Bowl contenders. That they put the beat down on Dallas. Everybody was like, these guys are for real. And now they've lost 2 in a row. We are still in the early stages of the season. Teams are still figuring things out. It's the midway point and on that is when you should start getting concerned about your team if they still haven't figured it out.
Yeah, I think you made a good point there. I think that's a really good point, and it's just going to be interesting down the stretch how this. I'm not. Who do they have next? Let me see.
So we have the New Orleans Saints on Monday Night Football.
Yeah.
At Arrowhead. And that one will be tough because you got Willie Gay on the Saints now. You obviously have Tyrann Mathieu on the Saints. So there's a couple guys that know how to attack this offense.
So you have the Saints, then a bye, and then you have the 49ers. So some time to rest up in between.
Well, the 49ers are going to be coming off of a mini bye as well. So
yeah,
but I'm not worried about this team. They're going to get it figured out. The 3-peat is still on. The 3-peat is not off. So anybody freaking out about the Kansas City Chiefs, let's pump the brakes and trust. Just trust.
Just trust the Kansas City Chiefs as they defeat the Los Angeles Chargers 17-10. We take a quick break. We'll be back with more of the Kirby on Sports podcast right after this. Is it finally time to upgrade your home's interior? How about with an authentic farm table made locally from recycled barnwood? Shenandoah Primitives, based right here in Winchester, Virginia, makes farm tables, benches, tables, coffee tables, and a long list of other items for your home decorating needs. At Shenandoah Primitives, function and style are combined for great furniture that will last generations. If you're interested in combining the industrial look of metal with wood, or considering something incredibly unique with a live edge, Shenandoah Primitives turns those ideas into reality. Thinking about a mirror, wine rack, or other accent piece for your home, Shenandoah Primitives can assist with that as well. As a local small business, Shenandoah Primitives is happy to work with each client for a custom design or schedule an appointment to come out and view current inventory. Local, high-quality, handmade items can be found at Shenandoah Primitives. Find us on Facebook and Instagram or visit us at www.shenandoahprimitives.com. Once again, that's www.shenandoahprimitives.com. Now we honor our good friend Dan Dembski, who is not currently with us right now, battling illness. Talk about the Ravens and Bills, as the Ravens all over the Bills, 35-10. Carlos, Derrick Henry, 24 carries, 199 yards and a touchdown. Is he still washed?
He's still washed. He's still washed. Come on, guys. What are we doing here? Listen, Derrick Henry can pull off incredible games every now and again, but let's be honest here, man. Like, the guy still can't take the same amount of hits he used to.
Well, he looked pretty good to me. That's why I wanted to get your thoughts. But
well, listen, I mean, in all honesty, I mean, the Bills aren't the best defense in the world, so I'm not surprised that he ran all over them.
And did you hear Von Miller got suspended today?
I saw it, but I didn't look into it.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure why, to be honest. But
it's a 4-game suspension, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, I believe he played in this game, though. If I'm correct. Maybe he didn't. I don't know.
Yeah, no. Von Miller suspended 4 games for violating NFL's personal conduct policy.
Yeah, which is what he do.
Pulling it up.
So while you're
talking about the game,
while you're pulling it up, fumbles seem to be an issue for the Bills in this matchup. They lost 2 fumbles. And the Ravens were able to capitalize on that. It just seemed like the Ravens were on another level, clicking from what they were in week 1 against the Chiefs. Looked like Lamar Jackson had a great day. I mean, Jackson was throwing the ball exceptionally well, in my opinion. And the overall, Henry complimented Jackson and vice versa. And I think Hill likely had some receiving yards up there as key receivers, and likely as a tight end as well. But it seemed like the Ravens were just on another level.
Oh, this stems from sorry to interrupt. I'm sorry. So this stems from when last year he turned himself into authorities because he was charged with a 3rd-degree felony for assaulting a pregnant woman. Yeah, it stems from that.
Interesting. Well, anyways, the Ravens, they played a great football game in my mind.
Yeah, they beat the September champs.
On the last day of September.
On the last day of September. Well, not the last day. The last day was yesterday, but the last football day of September. And yeah, I that was a good win, great win. I picked the Bills to beat them, but they proved me wrong. And the offense looked great. Obviously, like you said, Derrick Henry had himself a pretty decent game. Okay, I'll give him a little more. He had a pretty good game. And yeah, I think that I think it'll be I mean, the Ravens have bounced back. Obviously, they're now 2-2. So you got back to 500. Now let's see where you go from here. If you want to get back to the Chiefs, you guys better keep fighting.
Now
so you guys can get that ass whooped again.
He ain't here to defend himself. But now we look at the Buffalo Bills, their first loss against the Ravens.
Well, now they got the Texans coming up.
Yeah, I mean, this stretch could be a sign that they're just the September champs. Who knows?
I mean, they've always been the September champs. Everybody wants to crown them in September. I mean, for goodness sake, there's people still trying to make the argument that Josh Allen is the best quarterback in the league. And I'm like, dude, you can't make that argument when the guy who is clearly the best quarterback in the league has won 3 Super Bowls and has beaten this guy consistently when it matters most in the playoffs. Regular season, yeah, the Bills have success against us. They obviously beat us last year. I'm pretty sure they're probably going to beat us this year. Okay. But guess what? At the end of the day, when it matters the most in the playoffs, Patrick Mahomes is the guy. I'm sorry, I went on a Patrick Mahomes rant, as I always do. But yeah, this team is always crowned at this point in the season because they're normally 4-0 or like they are right now. The Bills are 3-1, correct?
Correct.
Yeah. They're 3-1. Like, they always come out of September with a winning record, and everybody's always ready to, anoint them the champs, which is why they've been called the September champs, because in September you're the champions. But then when it comes to actually win the championship, we know who wins the championship.
Absolutely.
They have a lot to work on. The Bills do. Josh Allen, I think they're starting to rely too much on Josh Allen, and Josh Allen can only do so much. And this was, like you said, this was an incredible performance by the Ravens, a great bounce back, especially at home, to win this way and to get back on track, after the very disappointing loss, to the Raiders, and then obviously the near collapse against the Cowboys. This was a good win for them to get up big and hold it there, like not let Buffalo come back into the game.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head there. I don't really have much to add, but the Bills, seeing how they respond to a loss like this as they have tougher opponents ahead, that's going to be what I'm most interested in seeing.
Well, this next game is going to be super emotional because it's Stephon Diggs.
Oh yeah.
So we'll see what happens.
The Baltimore Ravens over the Buffalo Bills, 35-10. And when we come back, we have our pick'ems, the Kirby on Sports pick'ems, all coming up next on the Kirby on Sports podcast.
Hi, this is Mark Peter Lynch with Guild Mortgage. One of the greatest joys in doing business over the last 30 years in the Shenandoah Valley is helping people buy their first home. Buying their first home and putting the keys in their hand at the closing table has brought me so much joy. If you want to buy your first home, a second home, or an investment property, or build wealth through investment in real estate, give me a call. My phone number is 540-664-4700, or you can find me on the World Wide Web at www.marksmortgage.com.
It's Jason, General Manager at Shenandoah Music, here to tell you all about...
Jay, what are you doing here?
Well, Matt, I'm trying to tell the people about our selection of guitars, basses, keyboards, drum sets.
I know that, but I always do the radio spots.
You get to have all the fun. I want to tell everyone about our huge selection, unbeatable prices, unmatched service, and in-depth knowledge.
Jay, I really don't think now is the time to discuss.
So remember, folks, when you think music, think Shenandoah Music in Winchester.
That's my line.
We are back, the Kirby on Sports podcast. We have reached that point in the show. It is time for the Kirby on Sports pick'em. And what a wild, wild week this was, Mr. Martinez.
Shout out to the new logo. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We have a new logo on the graphic. If you're not watching on YouTube, what are you doing? Get on here, check out the new logo. The new logo will be obviously posted on social media, but this isn't taking over the original crest. The crest will remain the main logo, but this is for three-man booth purposes. We have Kirby has commissioned this beautiful piece of art, even though Dan doesn't have facial hair normally, so it doesn't make sense. But it's fine. It's whatever. Anyways. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Welcome back to the Kirby on Sports Pick'ems, brought to you by Anthony's Pizza, home of the Warrior, located in Stephen City, Virginia. Shout out to you, Felice. As you can see, we have some interesting developments. Kirby and Dan are still tied at 14-10, and I am currently in last place at 13-11.
Last place? Are you kidding
me?
Oh,
hold your horses, young Szechuan. Hold your horses, because guess what? I have the receipts. Last season in week 5, Dan was at 15-9, so he is now one game behind where he was last season, sitting in first place. Kirby was at 14-10. Sitting in second place. Same place as he is now this year.
How the heck?
Carlos was at 13-11, sitting in last place.
How?
And guess who ended up winning the whole thing?
How did this happen?
History repeats itself, my boy. If we continue on the way we're going, I mean, at this point, it's three things are inevitable: death, taxes. Carlos wins the Pick'ems championship, baby. Let's go. So have no fear, my fellow subjects, my peasants, my followers. your king will arise again. He always does. Anywho, so the games we will be picking this week are the Buffalo Bills versus the Houston Texans, Baltimore Ravens versus the Bengals, the Atlanta Falcons versus the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, the Kansas City Chiefs against the New Orleans Saints, the Dallas Cowboys against the Pittsburgh Steelers, and the Las Vegas Raiders against the Denver Broncos. I will go first, as always, as your reigning, defending, two-time Pick'ems champion, soon to be 3 times, baby, if history goes the way we think it will, because it will. I will be taking the Texans over the Bills. I just think the Texans have more talent, and I think they're going to be very motivated to get that win for Stephon. And I mean, I think the Bills will also be very motivated to show that, like, hey, we didn't need you. But I just think Houston wins. I'll take the Ravens over the Bengals. I just think the Ravens are playing better football than the Bengals are. The Bengals struggled against the Panthers. So yeah, give me the Ravens. I'm going to take the Bucks over the Falcons. Both teams are playing decent football. The Falcons are playing decent. Tampa's playing good football.
Tampa's going to make a run, I'm telling you.
We'll see. I think this is going to be a very challenging game, but I'm going to go with Tampa Bay. I think Baker Mayfield has this one. I'm going to take the Chiefs over the Saints because I'm contractually obligated, and of course, I'm going to always pick the Chiefs to win. I'm going to take the Cowboys over the Steelers because I'm contractually obligated, and I also think, I don't know. This game is kind of a toss-up for me. It's very hard to predict this one because it depends which version of Dallas shows up. And Dallas seems to play better on the road this year, which is weird. So they're on the road, so we'll see. And then I'll take the Raiders over the Broncos, although might want to change that pick just because of all the stuff going down in Vegas right now. But whatever, we'll just leave it there. And with that, I would throw it over to Dan, but Dan's not here, so I'll go over his picks real quick. Dan is going to take the Bills over the Texans because he's a stooge. He's going to take the Ravens over the Bengals because he's contractually obligated and because he's a diehard Ravens fan. He's going to take the Bucks. I mean, he's going to take the Broncos. He's going to take the Bucks over the Falcons. He's going to take the Chiefs over the Saints because he's finally seeing the light that we are the better team. He's going to take the Cowboys over the Steelers because he wants to copy me and he wants to make sure he keeps his distance from me so he can hold the lead, which is something he hasn't been able to do the last 2 years. I'm throwing him under the bus while he's not here. I hope he listens to this. And then he's going to take the Broncos over the Raiders because he wanted to be different because he thinks he's so smart. I'm kidding, Dan. And with that, we send it over to the CEO and the founder, Josh Kirby.
I think after a loss the Bills have taken last week against the Ravens, I'm picking the Bills. I think they're going to be very motivated. Although this will be a very close game, I'm picking the Bills. The Bengals, I think they might be in panic mode. I'm picking the Ravens. And the Bucks.
I was like, you good?
Yeah,
I froze.
I had a brain fart there for a second.
Okay, anyways, go on.
I'm taking the Bucks over the Falcons. The Bucks are playing incredible football. Baker Mayfield to Mike Evans connection, unstoppable. Chris Godwin, I mean, they're looking good. And you can just throw me down a river if I get this prediction wrong, but I think the Bucks can make it pretty far this year. That's just in my mind. Taking the Chiefs over the Saints, this will be a close matchup, but I think the Chiefs come out on the upper hand. After the Joe Flacco performance defeating the Steelers, do we think the Steelers are the real deal or not? That's why I'm picking the Cowboys. I think the Steelers are good, can show signs of light, but I'm picking the Cowboys. And Raiders over the Broncos, this is a toss-up in my opinion, but I think I'm picking the Raiders. I just like Antonio Pearson. I think he's doing a good job so far. It's going to take a little while, but I am picking the Raiders. As always, pick with us. We'll post this on Facebook. The winner each and every week gets a large cheese pizza from Anthony's Pizza, home of the Warrior. Terms and conditions apply. But the scenarios this week, Dan has one game different from me.
No, hold on. The scenarios this week are we have 4 games where we're all making the same pick. So we're all going to get the same result in those 4 games. It's 2 games where I'm the only one who picked the Texans and Dan is the only one who picked the Broncos. So though that's the only movement we'll really see in this pick'ems is those 2 games in terms of I could win and I could, you know, you, me, Kirby, we might be tied up. You know, we might be tied up and Dan might be in last place. We just don't know. We'll see how this shapes out. But as of right now, this pick'ems has pretty much gone the same way as it did last year. I mean, we're only off by a game and Dan for Dan. But aside from that, we all pretty much have the same records as we did last year. So that bodes very well for me because, like I said, if it continues, your boy's going to make a run at the end and I'm going to win it by 1 game because Dan can't hold a lead, especially because my team always pulls through. The Kansas City Chiefs won me that title as they won their title, baby. Let's go.
And with that, that concludes the Kirby on Sports.
It's a floater.
Podcast. Yes, indeed. It was a fun one. I know we miss you, Dan, for sure, but always a pleasure chopping up with you, the Swiss Army knife, my friend.
Indeed, always.
For our sponsors, PM Plus Reserve, Shenandoah Primitives, Transformative Alignment Group, Barrett, Pest, and Termite Services, Mark Lynch with Guild Mortgage, Shenandoah Music, and the official energy drink of the Kirby on Sports podcast, Don't Sleep Energy. Use promo code KOS Podcast for 12% off your order every single time.
And shout out to the Alabama Crimson Tide for making Josh Kirby a happy man.
What are you talking about?
Because you hate Alabama so much.
Oh, not anymore. And once Saban left on.
Oh, okay.
No.
Never mind.
That
I
was
guess
just
my joke doesn't apply anymore.
Did you see what Williams did, though? A 19-year-old.
He's a 17-year-old, sir.
Yeah, excuse me. I'm sorry, 17.
17-year-old. I was texting the group while all that was happening, and nobody was responding.
No, I was asleep, and then I saw it. I'm like,
nah, dude. I watched the whole game. I was very disappointed with the beginning of the game because it was. I mean, Alabama was dominating, and I was like, man, like this is terrible. I waited all day for this, and then Georgia made the comeback, and then they scored and took the lead, and then not even 13 seconds later, Alabama scores. Williams makes that incredible catch and juke and spin, and takes it to the house, and you're like, this is a 17-year-old man. Like this kid's gonna be special. That hop spin was just it was insane.
2 defenders collided. I'm like, you've got to be kidding me.
It was a great game, man. It was a phenomenal game.
And with that, I was going to bring up that point. I saw that play, and I was like, oh, that's what Carlos is talking about. And if I would have texted it the day I watched it, you would have been like, Kirby, this is old news.
I'd have been like, this happened last night, bro. What are you doing?
No, I saw like 2 days after, and I was like, man. But
yeah, dude,
that was athletic.
That game was insane. That wasn't even. There was also his juggling catch where he somehow batted it up in the air and found it again and caught it. That game was absolutely insane. It was maybe game of the year. Hopefully, we'll probably see him play again in the SEC championship game.
It's gonna be interesting with the expanded playoff this year.
I mean, that's the beautiful thing is that even though Georgia lost, is that they can still make it into the playoff. Just
absolutely.
Fine. And I think I like that like now one loss does not, it doesn't derail your season anymore.
I really like watching Arch Manning, to be honest.
He's been playing, but he's been playing a bunch of nobodies. You know, he's not playing the tough competition, and Ewers is still a better quarterback than he is right now. Ewers is more developed, and just that's not saying Manning will probably be a better quarterback than Ewers, but I think Quinn Ewers is one of the best quarterbacks in the nation. So when he's healthy, he's got to take the starting role back.
Yeah, so college football, we don't have enough time, but that was a pretty good game. Once again, for Carlos, I'm Josh. Thank you to all of our sponsors. We miss you, Dan. We love you, buddy.
Don't die on me, man. Don't die on me. If you die, I'm bringing you back to life and killing you myself.
Always remember to create greatness, ladies and gentlemen. We say so long and peace out.